Hello, everyone. Today is the sixth Sunday after Pentecost. Unfortunately, we are worshiping and meeting virtually because of the COVID sickness affected some of our brothers and sisters. Hopefully, uh, they recover fast and we go back to our in person worship next week. My prayers are with you. Today, I would like to speak on the gospel reading uh, rather than First Peter, which is uh, the main reading for lectionary for the narrative lectionary. Sorry, the gospel reading comes from Luke chapter 10, 38 to 42. I would like to say a few things in short, but before that, I would like to read the chapter. And the chapter says from verses 38 to 41. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. The Gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Martha and Mary and Lazarus are mentioned in the Gospel of John and also in this Gospel. They were very close family to Jesus during his ministry. And today we see Jesus was in their home, and we kind of see a family feud between two sisters. Martha, I think the oldest sister, uh, she was very upset and worried, anxious, and she was trying to make Jesus happy by preparing many things to welcome him in their home. Jesus came with his disciples. Maybe other people were around him at this time. And Martha, the other sister, maybe the youngest, she was totally different, as it's common with every family. And she chose to come close to Jesus. And as usual, Jesus was teaching. And while the food or other things were being prepared, he was teaching. And people were, the disciples and other people followed him to this house, listening to him. And Mary became one of the listeners. And she was listening what Jesus was teaching. And that made Martha upset and worried. That made Martha uncomfortable. And also that made her angry. So she came out of the kitchen with anger and being upset, approaching Jesus. She directly came to Jesus and with the tone of commandment or commanding, asked Jesus to talk to Mary. Like siblings fight and come to their parents, being sure that their argument is the right one. Their reasoning is the right one. And Martha was sure that she's at the right place and her sister was wrong. She was sure that Jesus will back her, or he will back her reasoning. It sounds like her tone was like this: Jesus, what are you doing? And you are silent about this. Why don't you tell my sister to do what she's supposed to do, to be where she's supposed to be? She is in the place where she's not supposed to be. She's doing what she's not supposed to do. You know what she was saying? That's not appropriate. Appropriate for the time, appropriate for the culture, appropriate for the custom of the day. Because Jesus and his disciples and other people were out there in the courtyard, because the Jewish home was divided into these main sections: the kitchen, and where people sleep, like today's bedroom, maybe if they afford that, and also a courtyard. It might be inside the house if they are wealthy, or the courtyard might be outside. So men gather in the courtyard or in the main room of the house to talk, discuss, and argue or do their business. Women supposed to be in the kitchen, preparing meals and helping the mothers, and also tending the children. But Mary, at this time, the youngest sister, she was not in the place where she was supposed to be, according to the time, according to the culture. And that was upsetting for Martha. That was really making her very worried. That's why she came out of the kitchen with this kind of anger, thinking Jesus would be on her side, and she was telling Jesus that something is going wrong. Tell my sister to come back to the kitchen. Go, send her. Tell her, go. Be in the place where you're supposed to be. But the surprising thing, Jesus didn't back up Martha. Jesus backed Mary, and he praised her. That was a surprise, unexpected surprise for Martha. I think her heart might sunk, or she was kind of confused. What is he talking about? This is not what we do in our culture. This is not what we do in our family. This is not what we do. She should be there where I wanted her to be, the older sister, like a mother figure maybe. But Jesus is telling me that she's doing the right thing. It's amazing. In this gospel reading, we see this very surprising thing comes from Jesus. Sometimes we worry a lot. Even that worry pushes us to be upset and anxious, because we want things to go the way we want them to go. We want things to be in the status quo, or the way accustomed to us in the past, or in the construction of the society's expectation. But the world is a complex place. Life is not stagnant. It doesn't stay where it is, where it was. That's why it's called life. It goes forward, not backward. Sometimes our anger rises when we see things we are not accustomed to, when we see things where we don't like, when we see people do things we don't want them to do. Rather than going back into ourselves and search and analyze, or try to adjust ourselves. The 13th century philosopher Rumi once said like this: "Yesterday I was smart. I tried to change the world. Today I am wise. I am changing myself." Sometimes we think we are smart, we understand everything, and we know, so we try to control everything and we try to change things the way we want them to be. But that is not wisdom. Wisdom is to understand ourselves and to control ourselves, to adjust ourselves for the change going around us. Today in our world, there is a lot of upsetting things. There are a lot of things that make us worry. There are a lot of things, a lot of change. Then people rise with their anger to attack one another and to do very harsh things, to say very harsh things. Why this is happening? We're not supposed to be like this. We're not supposed to live like this. Some pray as if God is always on their side, as if God doesn't approve the other person's life or view or anything like that. But today's gospel tells us it is not always what we want. It is not always what we like. It is not always what we understand the world to be. Jesus praised Mary because her choice was that bring calmness. She didn't mind anybody. She didn't mind anything. She just controlled herself and sat at the feet of Jesus, and she was listening. Even when when Martha came out of the kitchen and accused her, she didn't say anything. It shows how matured her spirit, her personality was. She just left it there. Brothers and sisters, we are living in a different world. We are living in a fast changing world in our families, in our communities, and everywhere. Maybe we are angry before God and we go out there in the streets or in our churches, in our communities, fighting one another. But this text tells us, no, you know what God approves? You know what Jesus likes? Just calm down. Just sit there. Just listen. Listen and analyze and get wisdom. That changes you. Instead of trying to change others, that changes you every day and brings you peace. You are not, or we are not in control of everything. Whether we liked it or not, the world changes, politics change, things change, our children change, our community changes. Let's not fight one another about things we cannot control. But let's pay attention what we can control. That is ourselves. It's my prayer for all of us today that God gives us his wisdom, the wisdom of Mary. Just sit down and listen. Be calm. Not being upset and fighting. Being frustrated and harsh like Martha. God help us. Amen.